Chapter 15. HIV/AIDS virus. The quickest way to reduce population is through famine, like in Africa, or through disease, like in the Black Death. Population reduction is now our primary objective. This is a quote by Thomas Ferguson of the Office of Population Affairs. The World Health Organization, WHO, states that since the start of the epidemic, more than 70 million people have been infected with the HIV virus and about 35 million people have died of HIV. Globally, 36.7 million people were living with HIV at the end of 2015. An estimated 0.8% of adults aged 15–49 years worldwide are living with HIV. Sub-Saharan Africa remains the most severely affected, with nearly 1 in 25 adults, 4.4%, living with HIV, and this accounts for almost 70% of people living with HIV around the world. They state 1.1 million people died of AIDS-related illnesses worldwide in 2015. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, CDC, in the United States provide facts including those that more than 1.2 million people in the US are living with HIV and 1 in 8 don't even know this. From 2005 to 2014, the annual number of new HIV diagnoses declined by 19%. Gay and bisexual men, particularly young African American gay and bisexual men, are the group most affected. In 2015, 39,513 people were diagnosed with HIV infection in the United States. Gay and bisexual men accounted for 82% of HIV diagnoses among males. Among white gay and bisexual men, diagnoses dropped by 18%. Among Hispanic Latino gay and bisexual men, diagnoses rose by 24%. Diagnoses among African American gay and bisexual men rose 22%. Young African American gay and bisexual men aged 13 to 24 experienced an 87% increase in diagnoses. Heterosexual contact accounted for 24% of HIV diagnoses, 9,339. Women accounted for 19% of HIV diagnoses, 7,402. This is accounted to heterosexual contact or through injection drug use. Of persons diagnosed with HIV in the United States in 2015, 4% were aged 13–19, 37% were aged 20–29, 24% were aged 30–39, 17% were aged 40–49, 12% were aged 50–59, 5% were aged 60 or over. In 1983, it was publicly recognized that AIDS was a deadly disease that was spreading rapidly. The Center for Disease Control, CDC, described it as a peculiar biological curiosity among New York homosexuals. Boyd Graves, an attorney and graduate of the U.S. Naval Academy, said that mycoplasmas will forever be at the heart of the U.S. biological warfare program. He produced a timeline chart that brought together 20,000 science papers and 15 years of progress reports concerning a secretive federal virus development program. He claimed that this proved the man-made origins of AIDS. The 1971 chart makes it perfectly clear and provides absolute evidence of the U.S. intent to kill its own citizens and others, he said. In 2009, according to stats from the U.S. Census, the U.S. population was 307,229,513. That's a massive amount of U.S. citizens to be culled to meet the New World Order agenda. Sunday Times reporter, John Harlow, wrote that in May 2009, some of America's billionaires met at a Manhattan home a week before the Bilderberger meeting in Greece that year. The group called themselves the Good Club, and they included Oprah Winfrey, Ted Turner, Michael Bloomberg, George Soros, Warren Buffett, David Rockefeller Jr. and Bill Gates. Harlow said that the group agreed with Bill Gates that human population was a priority concern, and another guest said that there was nothing as crude as a vote, but a consensus had emerged that they would back a strategy in which population growth would be tackled as a potentially disastrous environmental, social and industrial threat. William Cooper in Behold the Pale Horse wrote that one of Pope John Paul II's friends, named Dr. Wolfs Muniz, was the mastermind behind the November 1978 to October 1979 and March 1980 to October 1981 experimental hepatitis B vaccine trials conducted by the CDC in New York, San Francisco and for other American cities that loosed the plague of AIDS upon the American people. This information from Cooper and its timescale links nicely and fits in with the director of the Institute of Human Virology in 2001, who was a man named Dr. Robert Gallo. He is credited with co-discovery of the AIDS virus. The AIDS virus is a designer B product of the United States Special Virus Program. This development program ran in the United States from 1962 to 1978. This virus was added as a complement to vaccine inoculations in both Africa and Manhattan. Not long afterward, the planet was noticing the mass infections of an animal virus that differed from any other human sickness, and it was highly contagious. In April 1984, Dr. Robert Gallo filed an application for a patent of his invention, the HIV/AIDS virus. He was a project officer for the Federal Virus Program, and between 1964 and 1978, the secret Federal Virus Program spent $550 million of taxpayers' money to create AIDS. Is this proof of the United States or the elites or Illuminati's plans to orchestrate depopulation on a grand scale via the unleashing of a biological organism that kills so many? And did something similar happen recently with the unleashing of Ebola in West African nations? Jim Marrs writes in his book The $1 Trillion Conspiracy that in 1993, patent 5,242,820 was granted to Dr. Shai-Ching Lo for a new and unique pathogenic mycoplasma called U.S. Army Mycoplasma fermentans incognitus. According to Lo, a senior researcher at the Armed Forces Institute of Pathology, this disease agent causes many illnesses, including AIDS, cancer, chronic fatigue syndrome, Crohn's colitis, type I diabetes, multiple sclerosis, Parkinson's disease, Wegener's disease and rheumatoid arthritis and Alzheimer's. This patent gives very strong support to allegations that many such illnesses could be the result of government biological warfare experiments with toxins of Nazi origin. In her book entitled No More Secrets, No More Lies, Patricia Quarry channels the following information and says that Hitler had access to the emerging technologies that are now sweeping your world, but fortunately they were still in the birthing stage. These involved genetic manipulation, Tesla warfare, biological, chemical and atomic weaponry, and his dream, the cloning of the Aryan prototype to establish white supremacy on planet Earth. He was commissioned, in a sense, to serve as a sort of test pilot of the new world order that was being prepared for this stage of your civilization, when it was foreseen the human population was expected to explode into 5 billion. You have exceeded those calculations by more than 1 billion beings. This the government realized years before it created the AIDS virus, whereas Hitler's assignment was the extermination of the Jewish population. The current massacre of life on your planet, a massive covert viral and bacterial war, has a far greater scope. This population reduction program first targeted homosexuals, drug users, and black populations of Africa. Today, as they intended, AIDS has taken such hold in the global arena that we observe 1 out of 7 individuals is already infected.